Today we want to talk about how a Christian might respond to Islamic extremism. Recently we sponsored a forum at Church of the Resurrection on Islamic extremism, and among the people we had come to speak was Brian Steed. Brian is a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army. He's been stationed as a foreign officer in the Middle East for 8 years. He's written several books, and he's currently teaching at the General Staff of the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College in Fort Leavenworth in Kansas. And we asked him to help us understand ISIS and Islamic extremism, and I thought you might enjoy hearing a few of his clips. Now I want to encourage you that you can go online and you can watch the entire or most of the presentation. It was an hour and 15 minutes long. I'm going to give you 3 very brief clips, but I want you to hear as Brian Steed talks about how ISIS thinks, in particular about eschatology, about the end times and their role in that. Take a listen.
I think the most important things to understand about ISIS is first that ISIS believes what they're saying, that they really do see themselves fighting an end of days. It's to put it in sort of a way that your congregation would understand. For them, this is a biblical fight. They believe that they are the one right version of Islam, and that anybody else who doesn't believe their way is not just an unbeliever, but is an apostate and is an enemy of God, and therefore needs to be either corrected or destroyed. That they are the end of days, final kingdom, if you will, that's going to be the one that welcomes in Jesus to bring about the end of days battles and the success that will bring about the day of judgment and the day of resurrection.
Now, in this next clip, you're going to hear Brian speak about how we might respond as people of faith. He spoke about in his presentation the fact that ISIS is fighting a narrative war, that they aren't fighting a conventional war. They're not using much in the way of weapons. What they want is to get everyone's attention. They know that if they kill somebody on camera, that's going to be broadcast on the news around the world. They don't need to kill hundreds and thousands of people at one time. They can kill one and get a lot of attention. They're waging a media battle, and their aim is to win the hearts and minds of Muslims who are on the fringes, maybe Muslims who might be feeling like they are disenfranchised, or they're looked down upon, or they're looked at with suspicion, that they're offering a different opportunity, an opportunity to build an Islamic state, to do something heroic and courageous in fighting off the evil empires of this world and in pursuing God's will for this world. And so I asked him, as he was talking about this waging wars of narrative, he said American military is used to waging wars with military weaponry, but we've got to be doing more in the way of narrative warfare. And so I want you to hear what he had to say when I asked him, so what do you think we ought to be doing? This is what he had to say.
We have a fantastic positive narrative. We have more goodness in this country than anywhere else, and that's a powerful message that we need to broadcast. And I think that partly how we welcome in refugees, how we treat the Muslims in our midst, because if we treat them well, not that ISIS is ever going to broadcast that message, but they will broadcast when we treat them poorly, when we say hurtful things, when we say things that are against our very nature and what we say we believe in. We need to be more of who we are and who we're supposed to be, rather than focusing on just being counter to them.
What I appreciate about Lieutenant Colonel Steed's comments is that he speaks to how we might defeat ISIS on American soil. Now, the U.S. Army and the U.S. military and their government needs to figure out what does that look like in the Middle East. But many of the things that people say in America are actually playing into ISIS's narrative, that we are an uncompassionate people, so we're rejecting Syrian refugees. We are a people who are only focused on materialism. We're people who want to use violence to accomplish our ends. When people talk about dropping nuclear weapons in the Middle East or carpet bombing entire cities, all of that plays into the ISIS narrative. What we need to show them is our true selves, our American narrative, and in particular as Christians, our Christian narrative. And for us as Christians, part of what we recognize is that the vast majority of Muslims are not in any way to be identified with ISIS. But we win the narrative battle on American soil when we treat all Muslims with respect, when we bless instead of cursing, when we demonstrate kindness and compassion and understanding, and in the words of the Apostle Paul, when we're not overcome by evil, when we don't give in to the evil and the fear that ISIS wants us to have, but instead we overcome evil with good. That's my encouragement for you. Let's be people who show a better narrative. Let's be people who overcome evil with good, and we will win the battle on American soil for the hearts and minds of people.